So right now I'm struggling to figure out how to post consistently, how to be more regular with things, and also being able to authentically, organically express whatever I'm thinking. Okay, so that's my conundrum right now, right here, right now. And so I'm listening to things, reading things, like searching, the eternal searcher, searching for things to answer the questions that I'm thinking, right? So the question was about self remembering and being the observer. And the thing he said that it was like a whole new piece to things is that I found a lot of value in being the observer and watching, watching yourself do the things you do without judgment, whatever, right? But it's like the thing that it said that really made me like realize something different was like he said that if you do that and there becomes a relationship like I'm watching me do this, like there's this duality, then you can become it's almost like a cat stalking a mouse. And when it explained it like that, I was like, whoa, that's actually what it feels like. It has morphed into being, where it's like the cat is watching, so like the watcher, right, is watching you do the things, and then it might be because you're judging the things you're doing, but then it brings this duality where it's like, I suck, I'm not doing this, or I'm not supposed to do that, or why are you doing this again? Like it brings in this like judger, which I feel like the detached observer has turned into the critical judge. And I don't know if that's always been, or if that just slowly is what it morphed into, where now it's no longer helpful, right? So I was listening to that, I was like, wow, that is so true. And then it made me think, right? Like, you know how, like, when you get drunk, right? Like, the thing that is so enticing about getting drunk is the fact that you lose yourself. So it's like there's a unity when you are drunk. Like you're not so self-conscious, you're not so self-aware, you're not like split where I'm doing this and then I'm judging myself doing this. It's like a we're just being. It's like an authentic, organic beingness where like I'm not judging myself doing the things that I would normally judge myself doing. Have you ever thought that too much self awareness is actually a burden? It's like one of those, like, it's a gift and a curse type of things where, like, it makes sense, right? Like everything else, too much of anything is never a good thing. Like, too much water, you can drown, you can get overhydrated or whatever, right? Something as, like, fundamentally needed in life can actually kill you. Like that. Okay, when you really think about it, yeah, that makes sense. But like this whole notion, like anything that is like, oh, you need more of that, that's, you need to be more self-aware, yada yada. There is actually a place where that is too much. Too much awareness is actually a burden, an unnecessary burden, and then it becomes a weight that holds you down, and you can never really get what would be helpful or useful to you. The perfect analogy for that was self remembering can be likened to when taken overboard, or when it becomes no longer helpful or useful, or you're ODing on self awareness, right? It's when it becomes like a cat stalking a mouse. The cat's just watching everything the mouse does, waiting to pounce on it, waiting to eat it. So in this terms, it would be like waiting to like judge yourself, criticize yourself. Why are you doing that again? You're too this, you're too that, you're not enough this, you're not enough that. Like that's the outcome of overdosing on self-awareness. You see? And like, if you think about it, right? The reason why people like getting drunk, right? It's because you lose that split. You lose that sense of like splitness of I'm here watching me do this, like you lose that. There becomes a merger of self where now you're just like wholly one. We are together, we're united, and we're doing stupid shit, like whatever it is, or we're free to be and act however we want to act, right? Like there's a merger of that split when you get drunk, right? And it's like I know that there are certain analogies where it's like enlightenment is like you're drunk on life, like you're high on life. Like that's what I remember certain gurus will say, like you're high on, like you're merged with the universe, with the universal mind, like. And like when I think about that, right, like I just reflect on right now, my progressed moon is in the 8th house, which is in opposition to my natal moon, and Saturn is right on top of my progressed moon, and my progressed descendant is right there too. So I mean, it's a long period of time because your progressed moon stays in a sign for 2 years, right? But thinking about that in terms of this, it's like, wait, what was I getting at? There was a reason I said all that, and now I lost it. Awareness. Oh yeah, right. So in my 8th house, there's Pisces, which is all about boundlessness. It's like a boundless merger and oneness with the universe, like boundarylessness, right? And my natal moon in Virgo in the opposite sign is like all about like the analytical, separate things. This goes here, this goes there. I know this. It's like all about boundaries, right? So I can see how that opposition is really messing with me, like royally messing with me. But listening to that guy was talking about, self-remembering is like it can become a burden, and like that's the crazy thing. I just was thinking earlier, like it just was like a little, I don't know, call it a download where it's just like, um do you think too much self-awareness is not a good thing? Like it was, like you can tell the difference between like a divine thought and like your ego trying to just like fear monger you, right? Like that was more like a hey, have you considered this? Not really telling you what to think, but it's like opening this door to consider something that without that little nugget you would never even have looked at, right? So it's like that, and it was just making me think like, wait, you know what? When you have it in your mind that you got to be self-aware, and self-awareness is the key and all that kind of stuff, right? It You would never think, especially when there's a lot of people who are like totally unaware of what they're doing, kind of robotic in just their behaviors. And like if you look at it from that frame, you're like, oh my god, that's like the wrong thing. Like how, like you're basically don't even know what you're doing. Like you're lost. That's what I used to think, right? But now I look at it from a more nuanced perspective, and it's like, wait a minute, it really does go with like ignorance is bliss. Like you're whole, you're one in your whatever, call it whatever you want. Like it's not really trying to put judgments on it. There is a tendency to want to do that, but it's not really good or bad. It's like useful or not useful. And it's like too much self-awareness can get to the point where it's no longer useful, and now it has become a burden and a weight and like something that you need to like kick off. And like that's what I'm realizing, like, wow, I think I've OD'd on self-awareness. And like not to sound like that, there's nothing good about that, because it's like now you've created so much different splits where I'm watching this and I'm doing this and I shouldn't be doing that, and how come you're doing this, and you should be more this, you should be less that, and it creates like chaos and confusion because you're so hyper aware of all these different parts, and you're just like, what is what, who is talking, what is this, you know and like I feel like that could cause psychosis for some people, right? And I think it might actually be one of the ingredients, but it's like there's still like this part of you that is still grounded, I guess you could say, in knowing the value of self-awareness, but it's also now realizing the fact that too much self-awareness is now you've OD'd on self-awareness, and now you got to pull back because now you created a cat and mouse game where you're both a cat and a mouse, and so now you're just running in circles, Tom and Jerry. So seeing that, and then now it also makes me see too that there is some value in boundarylessness, like merging. Like you can see how merging would be enticing, but it's also scary when you get your sense of safety from separateness. And this is that, and you are this, and this goes here, and that's that, which is very Virgo, right? Moon in Virgo is like, I get my sense of safety and knowing from that's over there, you are this, you are that, like understanding, very intellectual, right? But practical and grounded in like, you can't use that's not useful, that's, it's like you're intellectual with your feelings, which is like a pain in the ass, to be honest. And I'm just gonna go off on tangents, and like that's the hardest thing that's been for me, because I've been telling myself, you gotta stop going off on tangents. You gotta structure things. You gotta be more deliberate, more intentional. You go off on all these kinds of tangents too much. And then I have people mirroring back in my life, like, you're so scattered, and like, oh my god, you're going off on different things, and like it makes me feel wrong, and it makes me feel like that's not correct, and I gotta get that in order. And then listening to this book is telling me like, no, like that's one of our biggest things that holds us back from ever progressing, is the fact that we think that as we are, we're not okay. You're not okay as you are. You got to fix that. You got to change that. You got to be better. You got to be less. You got to be more. Like all these kinds of like self-improvement fucking rules and shit that just it gets too much. At a certain point, it becomes too much. And but that's the constant like battle I have. And like, here's another little insight. So my chart, right, like the shape of your chart of where your planets, your personal planets especially, where they land in your chart, they show you like the energy. So there's some people that have it like all bunched up in one area, so like they're kind of unified in like how they think and how they act. Mine is like a seesaw. So it's like this constant tug of war, this constant tension of like, I want what I can, I wanted this, but I want to do this. And like, it's just, like that has played out majorly. And, like, that's another layer. But like, see that, like, now I'm thinking, right? So this is the meta stuff. Like, you start to get meta about the things that you become aware of. And you start to examine the things that you examine, which like takes you on this freaking like trail of thoughts where you're like, what is what now? Like, what am I doing? Like this is crazy. And like, yeah, but I mean, I'm used to that. That's been it's been in my chart since the day I was born. That's your birth chart. So I've always felt like this tug of war tension. Oh, always. And so it's almost like it just feels normal. But yet it still feels stressful, and it still feels like this oppositional tension thing, but it's like a normal thing, like where someone can get used to a certain type of behavior, and like other people looking outside are like, are you insane to tolerate that? Like, how can you accept that kind of treatment? But it's like, I'm just used to it. That's just normal. So it's like that. It's like these types of like inner like tensions, inner like battles are just normal for me. It's just natural. And and I always have this tendency to make myself wrong for feeling like that. Abnormal, different. Like, why don't you just get your shit together? Like, how come you cannot just figure it out? And I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying. I'm really trying. But I'm actually gonna see. I always have this freaking tendency to get meta. You know, identifying and being direct and knowing exactly what I'm about to do, what I'm about to think. Like, it's like I'm unconsciously planning and like projecting, and like I'm gonna do this, and now I'm gonna do this, and well, I'm figuring this out, and like always getting like outside of it instead of just being in it. Like, if you notice, if you're listening to my videos, right, I'm talking about something, and then I tend to go outside of it and talk about it instead of from it. And sometimes I feel like that's useful, but then other times I feel like that becomes a burden. It becomes a burden where now you're split again. Like I constantly have this like natural default state to want to split things, to become like the doer and the watcher, the beer and the knower. Like just always like, you know, I should have a freaking drink of wine or something and then come talk and see if I can be more unified, like create some type of create a type of merger with all these splits. You ever feel like some people actually are just there to mirror your thoughts to you? And like some of those thoughts are literal distractions. Like, can you imagine this, right? So you have in your mind these thoughts, right? Like, um, it's always the unconscious thoughts, though. It's like the thought you won't let yourself think, but like you're vaguely aware of it. It's like those thoughts actually end up getting projected and then you hear it outside of you, said back to you. So one example of this, right? I had dinner with my cousin and her husband the other day, and we're talking about astrology. And then she says, "Oh, so what do you do with it once you know about it? Like, what do you do with it?" Right? And there was a part of me that in my mind felt attacked. Like, it was very subtle, very, very subtle. But it was almost like, what's the point of that? What is the use of that? It's like so useless. Now you have Virgo moon. Like, what good does that do? And it was like, it actually, the fact that I got triggered by it, even though it was so subtle, really exposed to me the fact that I have those very questions in the back of my mind. Like, okay, now what? Like, okay, I have this or you have that, or so what now? Like, what do you do about that? And like, I couldn't really formulate an answer for that because it was mirrored to me, right? An unanswered question in the back of my mind, like just on the back burner, almost hidden, was mirrored back to me outside, where it's like now I cannot deny it because it's in my face, right? What was I talking about? Oh, it gets projected out, right? So I didn't really have an answer for that, but it was almost like I want the answer. Like, it's like I want that answer, but I won't let myself see the question, so it had to get projected outside of me and shown to me so that I can figure it out. It was like that. And it's like I want to know, like I want to make it practical and real. And it's still vague. And like, I just 100% believe in being aware of things. Like, you could call it a magician possession because of all the four sides, right? I very much so can get easily possessed by the magician, and I just need to know. I just need to know things. I want to know why. I want to know why you do that. I want to know why you did this. I want to know why I'm doing that. Why am I stopping? I just want to know, right? It's just this need to know. And so, in a way, I, in the back of my mind, am not satisfied with just knowing. Like, what are you going to do about that knowing? There is an answer, but you won't let yourself see it if you won't let yourself admit that you're asking that question. So it's like, okay, that's a question that you won't let yourself see. Here's a person that's going to tell it to you straight. So now you cannot deny having not seen it. So, what's the point of that? Well, I guess that exposes to me. Am I yelling? Shit, I'm sorry. That exposes to me this fact that, like, you gotta get it, you gotta ground it. Like, it has to get grounded in reality. Like, and I really truly believe that. Like, I can get, like, just, like, so sidetracked in knowing things just to know it. Like, just for knowing's sake. But actually having no use for it, which is like, what's the point of that? That's basically entertainment at this point. Like, what is the point? There's no point. It's not grounded in reality. It's not useful. There's no earth. It's straight air floating out there. So I'm just kind of pondering that, like what is it? Other than, okay, so then I know by understanding certain things, especially about the nodes, it was really helpful in seeing, right? So I have a Sagittarius South node and a Gemini North node. Sagittarius in the 5th house, Gemini in the 11th house. So I can see, just from knowing that, it helped me understand my actual tendencies, the things I should be aiming towards, the things I should, like, embody the higher octaves of, right? Let go of the lower aspects of 5th house things and Sagittarius. But like 5th house is also Leo's house, and I'm a Leo rising. So it's like there's this like another further example of this push-pull tension that has just been the theme of my life. And so, it just makes me wonder. Okay, I think this is off track, but this just made me think of that because I see 5:55 on the time. Is that the thing that makes it the hardest is we don't know who to trust. We don't know which thoughts to trust. We don't know which modes of being to trust. We don't know what is actually true and real or what's a mask and fake. Like, we don't know who to trust. It keeps coming up as this continuous theme. You don't know who to trust. And that's very true. And it's like, what do you do then? How do you figure out who to trust, what to do, what's correct, what's useful, what's needed, what to let go of, what to throw away, what's a distraction, right? You see that comes, there's Virgo again, comes back in and like, so that's Virgo again, trying to come back and put things in order and trying to discern what is what and this is this. And it's also that I can figure out where everything is so I can be safe. It's always come back to like, how do you feel safe and secure? That's your moon. Your inner world. What was I talking about? So like I want to get inspired to be able to express and share, because I actually learn what I'm thinking by talking. Like, it's one of those things. But yet there's a part of me that feels like that's wrong, that's stupid, that's bad, don't do that, it's not useful. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to listen to that. And then part of me feels like that's self-betrayal, and like it's not me that's doing the talking. It's almost like I lose myself in the train of thought that helps me experience and see exactly what I'm thinking and feeling, which helps me get clarity onto what I'm supposed to do. But it's done in such a chaotic way, and it just feels wrong and bad and like just not useful, not good, that's not practical, you're too in the clouds, it's not you. All that also comes in. So I feel like this push-pull of like, it feels right to do it, but it also feels wrong to do it. It feels useful because I get to the bottom of things, but the process of doing it is so chaotic and so mutable, so airy. It's so like a wisp, like it makes me think of Brave and Merida's following the wisps. That's what it is. And it's like it helps me get clarity though, but it feels like wrong to do it like that. It feels bad, and it feels crazy, and it feels stupid, and it feels like nobody else does that. You're such a weirdo, it's like that. And like, which one is right? Which one is true? Which one is me? Am I the weirdo, or am I the one that's thinking that I'm a weirdo, or am I the thing that's doing it and something else is criticizing and like judging me for being a weirdo? I don't know what it is, and I don't know if I should even post this, and this is just, I don't know, But like trying to figure it out and trying to plan it and trying to make it perfect and trying to structure it wholly and like trying to get a theme and speak on that theme, like none of that shit is working for me. It just leaves me in this constant loop of like trying to forever perfect something that is just not flowing. Like once I start to do that and start to like create structure, it just falls apart, and it just like leaves me. It's like the wisp leaves as soon as I try to contain it and capture it. And then I'm left with like a bones, like a structure, but there's no life in it. Like I feel like this is what I've been feeling like for a year already. Like it's been a while that I've felt like, no, just do these thinking out loud videos. And I wish I had done it when I first started, because I would have had a year of it already. I would have had a year of thinking out loud. I would have probably had more clarity, because I get more clarity by thinking and talking than I do by just ruminating in my head. You know, like it's like expressing it actually gives it some type of life that now it's outside of my brain, so now I can look at it and like feel what's real and what's true instead of just thinking it, you know what I mean? So I don't know, like, and then I get the thought, right? Like, oh, are you gonna do this? Are you gonna do this on Twitter? Are you gonna blog about it? Or are you gonna do a YouTube channel? Or like, you know, there's always like that manager, right? Like Virgo's like such the manager that wants to micromanage everything. It's like wants to manage everything and like figure it out and like order it, structure it, order. And it's like, it's art, yo. You can't order art. But then a part of me is saying, you're crazy. That's not art. So, I don't know, you know. All I know is that what I've been doing is not working. You know, what I've been doing to try and figure it out is not working, because I'm trying to prematurely order things. And like it reminds me of this thing I heard where like it was another insight, where it's like bones are not the first thing to grow when a human is, you know, when a baby is developing, it doesn't grow bones first. It's usually like this little, it's like a nebula, like I could actually be wrong, but like I know bones are not the first thing. So like it's the life force, it's like the energy, it's like the pulsing life vibration of it is there first before any of the structures and bones and skull and all that kind of stuff get formed. So it's like I feel like by me trying to structure and plan, and like all these kinds of people are saying like you got to get a theme, you got to get a niche, you got to do this, and like all that kind of stuff is just really bogging me down, because like I just don't roll like that. I want to roll like that, trust and believe. I want to, my Virgo moon so badly wants to, but it just doesn't work. I try to put structure and order into a thing, and then the life force just vanishes. It's like it miscarries, you know, like the life force miscarries, and there's an abortion. There's like I don't like to talk in terms like that, but it really does feel like that, you know, like there is it out of order. There's an out of order flow of things. And like now I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. But basically I'm trying to, I guess you could say, convince myself that when I do these thinking out loud videos, they really do help me. So if they help me, and doing structured things and like trying to plan out everything like that doesn't help me, then obviously you do what helps. Because what are you trying to get then if what you're doing doesn't work, but it's right according to all the rules that are set up, but it's not helping and it doesn't actually land because there's no life force energy there? I don't know. I guess I gotta just test it out. I'll just do long form videos like that, like this, and just see how it goes, you know? Like, stop trying to get validated by the world prematurely before you ever actually, like, get the clarity. Like, you get the clarity by, like, expressing. And, like, stop trying to take ownership of the outcomes. You know, like, that's like the Bhagavad Gita, right? You do action for action's sake, not because of what you're going to get from the actions. That feels like that resonates. That feels like that's probably closer to where I should be going than what the logical mind is telling me I should do. So, you know, and then it comes to where like I'm thinking like I don't really have anything to say. I don't really know what I'm thinking. There's nothing I have to express. But once I get started there, actually a lot comes out. There's a lot of things that have kind of been hidden under the surface, I guess you could say. So, like, what if I just honored that? What if I just honored the moment as it shows up? Not as I'm trying to make it be, Not as I'm trying to peg it down to be too prematurely. Like, just let it be what it intuitively wants to be. I guess here's to spontaneity.